welcome to episode 10 of the Realise Mindfulness podcast, where today our theme is healing life and living with heart. I can hardly believe that we've already reached the concluding episode of season 2. This season we've taken a journey through the Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living course, exploring some of the key teaching themes and core meditation practices that make the programme such a nourishing, nurturing and highly practical exploration of mindful compassion. Today, we'll bring the season to a conclusion by considering how mindful compassion can facilitate our self-healing capacity, connecting us with our inner gold and exploring the powerful archetype of the wounded healer. We'll reflect on everything that we've covered together and how the many practices offered in MBCL can help us to cultivate wellbeing and to appreciate the good in life. We'll reflect on both the short, on-the-go practices and the longer meditations that we've shared, and consider how we can work with them to build and nurture a regular practice of both formal and informal mindfulness, as well as developing a toolkit, or maybe a first aid kit if you will, to help us deal wisely with difficulties as they arise, or when we're maybe faced with wounded parts of ourselves, or wounded parts of others needing special care. To continue to build our toolkit, today's on-the-go practice is one of my favourites, a pleasure walk. And we'll bring our episode to a close with a compassionate adaptation of a foundational body scan meditation, offering a particular flavour of appreciation today. But before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. The Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living course, which is the inspiration for this season, was developed as a support to deepening your mindfulness practice. And so it assumes that you've already spent some time building mindful foundations. So, if you're new to mindfulness, you may find it helpful to start by listening to season 1 of the podcast. And if you're ready to explore mindful compassion, let me acknowledge that the MBCL course is rich and deep, and this podcast is in no way a replacement for attending an 8-week group course. Rather, it is intended as maybe an introduction, or perhaps a companion or a refresher to the course. And if you're interested in finding out more, then I've included some helpful links in the show notes, and I'll say a bit more about that at the end of the podcast. So, without further ado, let's continue with today's episode as we explore healing life and living with heart. Jack Cornfield and Tara Brach, much-loved teachers in the meditation world, tell the story of a golden Buddha statue which was discovered in the 1950s. A monastery in Bangkok was known for its large clay Buddha statue. Now, the statue was not particularly beautiful, but it was revered and well cared for. However, during a period of intense heat and prolonged drought, some large cracks began to appear in the statue. The monks, concerned as to how to best care for the Buddha, shone torches into the cracks to investigate further. Imagine their surprise as through the cracks a glimmer of gold was perceived. It turns out that over 600 years before, during a time of invasion, the monks in the monastery had covered the golden statue with clay to protect it. Sadly, none of the ancient monks had survived the invasion to relieve the Buddha of its clay outer garments, and so it remained enrobed in clay for centuries. This story can remind us of our own golden core of kindness and compassion. and perhaps invite us to reflect on the ways that sometimes we attempt to cover that over and hide it from the world, perhaps because of challenges, disappointment or rejections we've experienced in our lives, perhaps because of fear or anxiety, maybe a concern for how others will perceive us. Whatever the reasons, can we respond to ourselves with kindness and compassion and begin to allow our inner gold to shine through? Likewise, can we recognise the inner light in others, even when they're making a good attempt to cover it in mud and clay? Many of us are familiar with the term PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. However, the phrase post-traumatic growth is less familiar. The concept was coined by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun in the 1990s, and holds that people who endure psychological struggle following adversity can often experience positive growth afterwards. In the words of Tedeschi, people develop new understandings of themselves, the world they live in, how to relate to other people, the kind of future they might have, and a better understanding of how to live life. So, in a similar way, viewing our wounds and challenges through a lens of mindful compassion creates space for learning and growth to blossom from adversity, and helps to connect us with our own inner gold, enabling it to shine through. I'm always deeply moved by the words from a poem by the Persian mystic Rumi, as he counsels us not to look away from the bandaged place, and to remember the wound is where the light enters you. A powerful archetype that acknowledges the paradoxical gift of our wounded places is that of the wounded healer, inspired by the myth of the centaur Chiron. As an equine-facilitated learning practitioner, I particularly resonate with Chiron's story. Centaurs are mythical creatures who are half man, half horse. Chiron was known in ancient Greece as the justest and the wisest of all the centaurs, and is also credited as the father of modern medicine, teaching the healing arts to Asclepius, god of medicine. Chiron himself was accidentally pierced by a poison arrow and retreated to a cave to hone his healing arts in an attempt to treat his wound. The poisoned dart would have killed a lesser being, but Chiron was immortal. He was able to treat his wound, but never to fully heal it. Perhaps these experiences were a fertile ground for compassion to grow, and in the end, Chiron made the ultimate sacrifice of trading his own life for that of Prometheus. And in recognition of his wisdom, his valour and compassion, Zeus placed Chiron in the heavens as the star constellation Centaurus. You may want to take a few moments now if it feels like a good time to pause, bringing your attention into your body, wherever the body's in contact with the ground, or the chair if you're sitting. And taking a few conscious breaths, following the breath all the way in and all the way out. And reflecting on this question: how have your own wounds encouraged you to embark on a healing journey? Indeed, what was it that sparked your interest in this podcast? and motivated you to listen to this episode. For me, as I've mentioned previously, my challenges with low mood and depression were what brought me to mindfulness. One of my heartfelt desires was to find ways to connect with a deeper sense of appreciation for life's small, everyday moments. The MBCL course and the practices and the ways of being that I've learnt along the way as I've continued to work with them have really helped me to cultivate that sense of joy and wonder in the everyday. For instance, the simple pleasure of stroking the cat, or of sharing a smile with someone, appreciating the feel of sunlight on my skin, or the intricacy of a pine cone that I find out on a walk. One of the practices that I find invaluable in my own life is the pleasure walk. It helps me to redress my natural Eeyore tendencies by encouraging me to get out into nature and to notice the many things around me that lift my spirits and help me feel part of a bigger picture. Savouring can be a beautiful cultivation practice to help us appreciate all that's already good or okay in our lives right now. You may like to explore this practice with me now, or you may prefer to simply listen to the guidance right now and bookmark this spot so you can go for a walk at another convenient time. And if you choose to just listen, you may even like to imagine taking a favourite familiar walk outdoors in nature and connecting with the sights and sounds through the power of your imagination. So, a pleasure walk simply invites us to set out with the intention to bring mindfulness to a walk and an opportunity to take in the good and nurture our soothing system as we're walking. So whether you're joining me now or whether you're listening along and perhaps practicing in your imagination, perhaps beginning by taking a pause, taking a mindful stand, and feeling into sensations of the body in stillness, a sense of the feet firmly rooted to the earth, the strength of the legs, and the uplift of the body through the spine. And when you're ready, preparing to take the first step, noticing which leg wants to move first. And just gently allowing the body to move forward at its own pace. Settling into a soothing walking rhythm. So tuning in to what feels right for your body today and what feels right for the environment that you find yourself in. You may decide to slow down your normal walking pace. Or you may decide to walk along at your normal pace, feeling into the connection with the earth with each footfall. Tuning in to the swing of the legs, the movement of the body through space. Allowing your breath to flow freely as you walk. And maybe inviting a gentle smile to your lips. And opening the sense gateways to notice whatever's pleasant in your environment right now. So the maybe particularly soothing sights, perhaps the green of trees, sights of nature, or if you're walking in a more urban environment, perhaps pleasing architecture, or a sense of community as you notice passers-by about their business. And opening your heart too to a sense of connection with the environment around you, including other beings that you encounter. And tuning into sensations too. Sensations on the surface of the body, maybe feeling air against skin, or the movement of clothing with the rhythm of the walk. Perhaps feeling the sense of strength and relaxation in your muscles, or the solid ground under your feet. Maybe the warmth of the rays of the sun on your skin, or perhaps a gentle breeze or rain, depending on the weather. And an invitation, if something beautiful or joyful draws your attention, then allowing yourself to pause and mindfully explore it through all your senses. Drinking it in through the eyes, maybe sounds and smells. Really allowing yourself to mindfully explore whatever's caught your attention. Perhaps the fragrance and beauty of a flower, the shape of a tree, the expressions on people's faces, or the colours of their clothes, the sounds of nature, perhaps birds singing, or perhaps sounds of conversation and laughter around you. Maybe the movement of clouds in the sky. So exploring the details of whatever offers a sense of pleasant, of pleasure, appreciation. Allowing time for it to sink in and noticing how the body responds. And when you're ready, resuming your soothing walking rhythm, finding a pace that feels right for you, and tuning in to sensations in the body. Until, of course, you maybe notice something else that invites you to pause, soak in its beauty. Something that maybe evokes feelings of joy or gratitude. Perhaps prompts thoughts, associations and images to arise in your mind, which can also be sources of joy. For instance, even challenges you encounter, perhaps weather patterns that were not what you were hoping for, can give rise to a sense of gratitude. For instance, we can appreciate the rain for nourishing the earth. We can appreciate the wind for circulating air. We can appreciate weeds for bringing a sense of colour and beauty to an urban landscape. So you can continue your pleasure walk for as long as you choose. But for now, we'll bring this practice to a close. And acknowledging that this practice can be a beautiful way to thread informal mindful compassion into daily life. You may, like me, choose to make it part of your daily routine. Or perhaps it could be a practice you turn to when you need a little nourishment or a spark of joy and appreciation. Learning to connect with the practices that will both serve us in the moment and those that build a habit of more formal meditation to nurture a steady and firm foundation. This is one of the things that we discuss in the final weeks of the MBCL course, just as we've been doing in the last few episodes of the podcast. In the final session of the 8-week Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living course, we ask some reflective questions, which invite participants to ponder their insights from the course. What's been helpful? What's been hard? And what we may plan to continue once the course, or indeed this podcast, comes to an end. So, let's take some moments now to reflect on our journey together through the 10 episodes of this Mindful Compassion podcast. And whether you've been sharing the journey for the full season of the podcast, listening into every episode, or dipping in now and again, or maybe you're joining for the first time today, let's just pause to recap on everything we've explored together. And this may offer an opportunity to reflect on your learning, to think about what you'd like to take further, or to highlight areas that you'd like to catch up on, perhaps if you've missed an episode. And just to explain my terminology, when I describe a practice as short or on the go, it signposts the fact that once we're familiar with it, this practice can be done in the moment. For example, standing in a queue or a pause between meetings. In this way, it could become part of our repertoire of informal practices. And when I mention a longer or a formal meditation practice, it signals that it would be helpful to carve out some quiet time for meditation. The formal meditation practices in the MBCL programme range from around 10 minutes or so in the early sessions, up to around half an hour as the programme progresses. So let's recap on what we've explored. And as you listen now, I invite you to sense into what's resonated for you. And maybe where you've encountered resistance as well. And what you may like to continue with or explore further. So, right back at the start in episode 1, we discussed the question, what is mindful compassion? As I met in conversation with course co-developer Eric van den Brink. We talked about how the MBCL course was developed to support people in deepening their mindfulness practice and to respond to suffering with kindness and wisdom, in part by softening the edges of harsh self-criticism that many of us suffer from. Eric also introduced us to the beautiful short breathing space with kindness practice, which is a thread which runs through the entire MBCL programme. Our journey through the Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living course began in earnest in episode 2, as we explored how understanding the evolution of our tricky human brain and familiarising ourselves with the 3 emotional regulation systems, the threat system, the drive system, and the soothing and care system, can help us switch from a life of simply surviving to one of thriving. To support us in tuning into our soothing system, we explored a short, on-the-go, compassionate breathing practice. and a longer safe place meditation. In episode 3, we took a deep dive into self-compassion, exploring some of the common myths and misconceptions and the phenomenon of backdraft. We also explored some embodied postures for self-compassion and an on-the-go self-compassion mantra practice, supported by a formal compassionate companion meditation. Treating our habits with compassion was the theme of episode 4, as we reflected on which wolf we wanted to feed, the wolf of love and kindness, or the wolf of hate and anger. We considered how to nourish healthy habits, and to support this, we revisited the breathing space with kindness, and I guided a longer, compassionately relating to desire meditation. Deeply embodying the skills and attributes of compassion was the theme of episode 5, and we introduced the lotus of compassion as a model to bring this to life, alongside a practical, short breathing space with compassion and a formal embodying compassion meditation. Episode 6 was an opportunity to experience giving and receiving compassion through the compassionate breathing practice, inspired by the ancient Tibetan practice of Tonglen. Growing happiness was the theme of episode 7, and we explored 3 doorways to happiness: the pleasant life, the engaged life, and the meaningful life. We also introduced the 4 friends for life as heartful attitudes to support us to live with kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. We shared a revisiting the good practice to support us in cultivating a sense of joy and appreciation. Episode 8 was a beautiful opportunity to meet with Fritz Costa, co-developer of the course, and to explore how his own personal journey from troubled teen to Buddhist monk and then to psychiatric nurse guided the development of the MBCL course. Fritz shared his insights on the 4 friends for life and guided us in a beautiful horse whisperer meditation to cultivate the quality of equanimity. In our penultimate episode, we discussed weaving mindfulness and compassion into daily life. In this way, living with a heartful mind and a mindful heart. We shared some practical reflections to support us with this, alongside a breathing space for wise, compassionate action and a formal loving-kindness practice. As you can hear, we've explored a lot of ground together, and you may want to revisit some of the episodes and many of the practices. Likewise, due to the time and form of a podcast, we've only touched on the surface of the Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living course. There are a number of practices offered in the course that I haven't been able to share yet. And of course, listening to a podcast is in no way a replacement for the rich insight and dialogue and shared group learning that comes from attending a course alongside others. However, podcasts do offer some advantages. For instance, the opportunity to replay and revisit supportive ideas and practices, and of course, to come back to the meditations whenever that would be helpful. As we consider supporting our ongoing practice, a gardening metaphor can be helpful. You may want to think about some of the qualities that you'd like to cultivate. Just as in a garden, we decide whether we want to grow flowers, fruit, vegetables, or a wide range of plants. And of course, for the garden to flourish, it needs adequate sunlight, rain, and maybe fertiliser. the care of an attentive gardener can make all the difference. Many of the practices in our course have supported us to grow the qualities of kindness, compassion, appreciation, and equanimity, qualities that support us to flourish and care for those around us. Being mindful about the specific qualities we wish to cultivate can help us direct our practice. For example, if we want to develop an attitude of kindness, we may want to revisit the breathing space with kindness, or maybe an informal walking with kindness practice, or perhaps to make time for a more formal loving kindness practice. If we want to cultivate an attitude of compassion towards a part of ourselves maybe, or to another person that is more tender or vulnerable, we may turn to the informal practice of the breathing space with compassion, or with wise compassionate action. Or maybe offer ourselves an in-the-moment self-compassion mantra, or a compassionate breathing space. There are also many formal practices which can nourish this quality, including the compassionate companion and embodying compassion, and also compassionately relating to desire. All of these practices are ones that we've explored together earlier in the podcast. When it's an attitude of sympathetic joy and appreciation that we're hoping to nurture, then practices such as the pleasure walk, revisiting the good, or the sympathetic joy meditation can all be good resources. The appreciative body scan is also a beautiful formal practice to help us nurture these qualities, and it's one we'll share together at the end of today's episode. And if it's the quality of equanimity we're hoping to nurture, the beautiful horse whisperer meditation that Fritz guided for us in episode 8 is a wonderful practice. The 8-week MBCL course offers us many other options, and as Fritz reminded us in our conversation together, in fact, any moment of mindful awareness is in fact a moment of equanimity. So in this way, making time for our mindfulness practice is an act of cultivating equanimity and balance. So, as the podcast comes to a close, you may like to think about how you plan to cultivate your own garden, watering seeds, tending to flowers, and of course pulling the weeds. And if you've enjoyed the podcast and you want to take it further, then maybe you want to explore attending an 8-week group course with me or another qualified teacher. You can find a register of qualified teachers on the MBCL International website, which is listed in the show notes, along with some other support resources, including links to Eric and Fritz's websites, and a link to their helpful workbook, A Practical Guide to Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living. This is a book that I return to regularly. So, before we move into our longer practice for the episode, let me end by sharing a wish for all of us for the end of the podcast and beyond. May the hidden gold within freely reveal itself. May we recognize how the wound enables the light to enter in. May we build a supportive, mindful foundation of safeness and soothing. May we cultivate kindness for ourselves and those around us. May we be free from suffering and find wholeness in the imperfections of life. May we enjoy inner happiness and live in peace with ourselves and those around us. May we spread wings of wisdom and compassion and bring healing to ourselves and those whose lives we touch. And let's end the season with an opportunity to really embody mindful compassion and appreciation for ourselves as I guide us in an appreciative body scan, which will last around 30 minutes. This meditation practice is a variation on the traditional body scan, offering an opportunity to kindly dwell in the felt sensations in different parts of our body, at the same time as offering kind wishes, gratitude, and appreciation to our body. So finding a quiet and comfortable space where you won't be disturbed for the next half hour or so, you're invited to join with me in an appreciative body scan meditation. This is an appreciative body scan, an opportunity to be with the body with an attitude of kindness and care. So modelling that from the very start of our practice by choosing a posture that will be supportive and comfortable for you. And traditionally the body scan is done lying down, so you may want to find a quiet and comfortable spot where you won't be disturbed and you can lie down comfortably on your back for the next 25 to 30 minutes. And if lying for that length of time isn't comfortable for you, then finding an alternative, maybe sitting or resting back propped on cushions. So taking some moments now to settle into your chosen posture, allowing the body to come to stillness and rest, with a sense of mindful alertness and dignity, a sense of falling awake. And maybe beginning by checking in with the body all down the length of the back of the body, wherever the body's in contact with whatever surface you're resting on right now. And maybe with each out-breath a gentle sense of letting go, letting be. Letting the weight of the body be fully supported and held by whatever surface you're lying on. And maybe with each out-breath a gentle invitation to let go of any holding or tightness, restriction that may be present in the body right now. Allowing yourself to be received and supported by whatever you're resting on. And maybe choosing to establish a home base for the practice, an anchor to return to at any point. And that may be a familiar anchor, perhaps a sense of the back of the body in contact with whatever you're resting on, or perhaps a sense of sensations in the feet or the hands at rest, or maybe a sense of the breath in the body, and particularly wherever the breath's most vivid for you today. And then when you're ready, an invitation to invite awareness right down the body and into the feet, exploring sensations on the surface of the feet, maybe a sense of skin in contact with socks or shoes, perhaps an overall sense of temperature, and any sensations deep within the feet, maybe tingling, pulsing, a sense of blood flowing, or the intricate bone structure of the foot. So bathing both feet in kindly awareness. And maybe inviting a gentle sense of appreciation for the feet. These feet that have carried you through life from the very moment you were born until the present day. These feet that enabled you to take your first steps, to explore the world. What could be a kind wish for your feet? And it may be one of the traditional wishes that we've been practicing with. Wishing our feet, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be happy, happy feet, may you live with ease. Or maybe a very specific wish for your own feet. May you travel lightly through life. May you dance to the rhythm of life. May you walk lightly and with joy. So allowing a kind wish or kind wishes to flow to the feet with every breath. And then when you're ready, letting a sense of the feet fade into the background and expanding the spotlight of attention to take in the whole expanse of the leg, from the ankles and the lower legs, through the knees and the upper legs, right up to the hip joints. So bathing both legs in kindly awareness right now, and exploring any sensations that are present in the legs. Maybe there's a sense of the strength of the legs, strong bones and large muscles, or the broad expanse of skin. Sensations on the surface of the legs, and deep within, bones and muscles and intricate joints. Tuning in to any and all sensations in the legs. And opening to offering the legs some kindly wishes. Again, allowing yourself to be surprised by your own intuitive knowing. So maybe you prefer to work with the traditional wishes, or maybe spontaneous wishes arise for your legs. May you move through life with strength and resilience. May you walk tall. May you feel at ease. Maybe allowing the kind wishes to flow freely with the breath. Expressions of gratitude and appreciation for our legs. And then when you're ready, letting a sense of the legs fade into the background for now and shifting the spotlight of attention to the whole bony cradle of the pelvis and the spine rising tall and elegant and the whole back of the body. Appreciating their strength, flexibility, acknowledging your back for keeping you upright, supporting your balance, and offering kindness and gratitude to this part of the body, the pelvis, the spine, and the whole region of the back. And of course, at any point in our practice, we may encounter parts of the body that are vulnerable or fragile. Maybe they've experienced injury. Maybe they don't work quite like they used to. Maybe they've suffered illness. Perhaps an operation, scars. And can we shine a light of kindness and compassion on all the wounded parts of our body that we encounter, offering them well wishes and appreciation too. And of course, at any time in our practice, if things feel a bit much, if we feel a bit overwhelmed perhaps, or maybe we just get really sleepy, a bit daydreamy, we can always return to our home base, to our anchor. And when we're ready, pick up where we left off, continuing with the practice, which right now is to be bathing the back of our body in kindly awareness, tuning into any and all sensations in this region. Maybe a sense of firm contact, being grounded and supported on whatever surface we're resting on. Perhaps a sense of the breath in the back of the body. And when we're ready, an invitation to extend kind wishes to this part of the body. May you be safe and healthy. May you live with ease. May you stand tall amidst the ups and downs of life. Allowing yourself to be surprised by whatever kind wishes present themselves. And when you're ready, letting a sense of the back of the body fade into the background for now and shifting awareness to the front of the body, to the chest, the abdomen and the belly. Maybe a sense of the front of the body gently rising and falling with the flow of the breath. And maybe a sense too of all the internal organs nestled within, quietly doing their work for us. Heart beating, lungs pumping air around the body, stomach digesting, liver, kidneys, pancreas, all doing their work quietly in the background. And just quietly being with the sensations in this part of the body. The whole front plane of the body and deep within. Tuning in to any and all sensations that are present here. And extending kind wishes, gratitude and appreciation. All these internal organs and the wonder of the way they support us, our digestive system, extracting nutrition from our food and disposing of waste, our kidneys, managing the balance of minerals and fluids, of course our lungs, inhaling and exhaling air in perpetual exchange with other living beings. Our heart, often held to be the centre of emotional wisdom and knowing, also pumping blood that nourishes and detoxifies every organ in our body. So gently sensing and appreciating all these body parts, offering them kindness and gratitude, and noticing how this is received. And even when parts of the body are not working quite as we'd like, we can still appreciate them for what they've made possible in our life, sending gratitude for how they've served us. And perhaps these vulnerable or wounded parts of our body can be an invitation to deepen our compassion practice, wishing ourselves well. Allowing kind wishes to flow with the breath. And then when you're ready, letting a sense of the front of the body fade into the background and shifting awareness to the arms, perhaps beginning with the shoulders and the upper arms, the elbows and the lower arms, right down to the wrists, the hands and the fingers and the thumbs, bathing the whole of your upper limbs in kindly awareness, noticing sensations on the surface of the skin and sensations deep within. Appreciating our arms, our shoulders and our hands that enable us to touch, to carry, to play instruments, make gestures, write, type, connect with other beings, offering them kindness and gratitude right now with every breath. And noticing how both the giving and the receiving of these kind wishes affects you. And then when you're ready, letting a sense of the arms and the hands fade into the background and shifting awareness now to the head. Bathing the whole of the head in kindly awareness. Sensing and appreciating your neck and your throat. The mouth and lips, tongue and teeth. This area that enables us to taste, to speak, to smile, enabling us to express ourselves, to communicate through speech and gesture. Our nose enabling us to smell and to breathe. Our eyes, which offer the gift of vision and all we can see. And our ears, which enable us to hear, to appreciate music and bird song and speech. So allowing gratitude and appreciation to enter all these areas. offering each of our senses some kindly appreciation and maybe a kindly accompanying wish. And expanding awareness to the inside of our head, our skull, and our brain. Maybe appreciating the continuous processing of information that our brain enables, the way it supports the communication with all the other parts of our body through the nervous system. And really allowing ourselves a moment to appreciate and befriend our brain, even if it can be a tricky companion at times. Allowing ourselves to send some wishes of gratitude and appreciation for all the ways it enables us to interact with the world around us. And when you're ready, letting a sense of the head fade into the background and widening awareness out to take in a sense of the entire body now. And inviting kindness to flow through every cell of the body. If you like, you may like to imagine the kind wishes flowing with the rhythm of the breath. Imagining a wave of gratitude and appreciation flowing with every breath from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes and back again. Or perhaps, if you prefer, flowing with every breath from the center of the body to the surface of your skin and back again. And allowing the body to rest in a healing bath of kindness and compassion, cradled in appreciation and gratitude. And as our practice begins to draw to a close, maybe allowing some gentle movement, perhaps a gentle wriggling of fingers and toes, or some stretching, allowing your body to move in any way it wants to move. Perhaps bringing some more conscious, mindful stretches as we prepare to bring our practice to a close and move forward into the next moments of our day or our evening with a sense of mindful, compassionate appreciation for our own body and all it offers us. And of course, also a sense of mindful and compassionate appreciation for all beings. May you live with ease. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. It's my heartfelt wish that this podcast in its own small way, contributes to the spread of mindfulness and compassion in our world. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and follow it. And if you have friends who may be interested, please share it with them too. And if you'd like to find out more about me and my work, including the Mindfulness-Based Compassionate Living group course and one-to-one coaching, you can do so at my website, www.realisemindfulness.com. Please do keep listening, and if you'd like to keep in touch, it would be wonderful to hear from you. So, until next time, wishing you ease and kindness in the flow of life.